There's only so many ways you can tell someone you don't worship a saint, but yeah, we have statues of saints, just like we have pictures of family members in our homes, and or statues are representation so we can see the virtues that they had and try to aspire to be an example of those virtues. And then we ask intercession, right? Just like we ask our mom when our dad is mad at us, we tell our mom to like talk to dad for us. And we do the same thing with the Blessed Mother and the saints. Please go before God and ask him, right? And that's why the Catholic Church, like we do this for two reasons. One, because this is a beloved soul of God that has sacrificed and given their life for God. And for that reason, we believe that God, just like dad will look more favorably when mom asks, let's go for ice cream, than when punk third son goes and asks, let's go for ice cream. So the same thing with God the Father, when one of his beloved souls who has sacrificed and given himself for him comes and says, please, will you hear the prayers of this man or this woman down on earth? We would believe that God is would be more willing to shower graces upon us, but also as a reminder of when that saint, just like we have the relics of the saints in the altar, is to a reminder of, don't forget that, Lord, this soul was nothing and they became heroic for you. And don't give up hope that I can do that as well. And so it's almost like our human reminder to God, like that this saint that I'm sending to intercede for me, when you look at him, also when you look at me, see him and realize that I know I'm a terrible sinner right now, but believe that I can be like him one day. Okay. So yeah, but you ask any Catholic and you just like, no Catholic has ever like worshipped or, put incense upon a statue, or like we don't worship saints. Like they're great, they're awesome, but they're not God. We send them to God to say, like, believe in us like you have believed in them.
So like how would like our view of saints be different than like a Judean viewing the patriarchs and the prophets?
I think it's probably very similar, right? Yeah, I think it's very similar. The only difference is that I would say the difference is probably that the with Christ came an idea of intercession that didn't previously exist, right? Before that, it was a very direct. It was simply you go to the temple and you worship there. Outside of that, you pray to God, but there wasn't, the idea of intermediary or mediator didn't really exist. It's not until Christ comes that you have an actual mediator. And now everyone after Christ, right, is a shadow of who he is and is a splinter of who he is. And so our interaction with these saints, or our love of these saints, is because they have qualities of Christ. They participate in the life of Christ. They participate in the goodness and the heroism of Christ. And so for that reason, just like Christ puts before us the idea of mediator, and that now, because we all, like St. Paul says, are Christ, right, by the grace and our submission to his will, that we also partake in that mediatorship that he has, right? That's really what sanctity is. It's, I'm not Christ, but I participate in that Christological idea. Whereas before it was a prefiguring of Christ, but they weren't mediators, right? Because mediatorship hadn't existed yet. It's not until Christ comes that it's like, now we have it. Does that make sense?
Common argument I receive is there is no one in heaven right now except for these few figures that were explicitly deemed to be in heaven, and we cannot consider anyone else in heaven until the judgment. What do I have there? Are they correct?
Well, metaphysically, yeah. Metaphysical certitude, we know that Christ and Our Lady are in heaven. Outside of that, we don't have
It's like, what, Ezekiel or like...
Well, the only metaphysical certitude we have is that Judas is in hell. Christ specifically said, it would be better that this man not be born, right? The son of perdition, etc. But outside of that, we don't know. We don't know with a certitude of God that this soul, we just have the metrics the signifiers, the signs and the miracles, and these expressions of manifestation of God upon earth, and what would seem the manifestation of God, of these saints being intermediaries for God when they would be prayed to, right? And miracles would happen in their name, right? As an intermediary, it's like, well, then they must be in heaven if they are being a channel of graces for us, between us and God. But yeah, we don't have a metaphysical certitude that they're in heaven, right? So we would agree, but we have those metrics that seem to point to their beatitude, their justification. Yeah.
Is that through, say, miracles or?
Yeah, that was the whole process of the Catholic Church, right? The canonization process, which is that rigorous process of like, no, they have to have miracles they were specifically prayed to for those miracles, and that's a sign of an intercession, right? And of course, of all these other things, this network of concepts and ideas and tests that have to be had in order for us to say, we have a good idea that this soul is in heaven.
Also, like, lots of saints, when they die, people usually get the conception, like, that their face is glowing, or like, they know that they went to heaven. I don't really know how to explain that.
Yeah, I mean, we have incorruptible saints, for instance, bodies that haven't corrupted, that are still intact, just like they've always been, which is obviously a miracle that, we can't really explain. But yeah, there can be certain signs of certain glowing, etc., that can...
Like Saint Bernadette, didn't something like that happen with
Yeah.
her, where she's like, I see God, or something like
Yeah,
that?
and those can be little things that we can point to. But most importantly, it's going to be those miracles and then the integrity of their life that we can prove.